Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast, talking about the 2023 Cyclocross World Championships. Going to touch on all the categories. Show note, we're going to save the elite men's coverage, which, of course, took place today for the end, so stick around. I am joined by JB. Is that electricity in the background?
After 5 days, yes, we finally got power.
You know, back. The Texans, man, you get that freezing rain, trees fall, power lines down. There's still 45,000 people in Austin without electricity. But dude, I'm glad. Like, what do you do for 5 days? Like, if you don't did you leave or where'd you stay? Wasn't it cold?
No, I like to prepare for the worst. Assume it's going to happen.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. So I had a generator going and space heaters and could run my fridge and had a gas stove so I could cook. Lanterns.
You should have just turned on all the lights. Like your neighbors drive by and they're like, what the fuck?
What the hell?
What did he? What?
Well, I had no neighbors. Everyone literally booked hotels. Like you had to go an hour outside of Austin to find a hotel room. Jeez. And so my street was just abandoned. Like my whole neighborhood. Wow. It's crazy.
Even better.
But the good news is it's 72 degrees today. Just 5 days after the freeze.
I'll be down there tomorrow. I'm glad it warmed up.
Yeah.
Also joined over there in Madrid, Johan Brunel. Johan, how you doing?
Nice, good. Electricity, everything's running here.
This is your show to talk about. I mean, if they may as well just have the World Championships with a bunch of Dutch and Belgians and maybe a couple Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a special sport, and very, very focused on Belgium and Holland. But doesn't take away that the level of that sport is really, really high,
Right. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And lastly, Mr. George Hincapie in Greenville, South Carolina, which George told us something. And if you remember, you caught all this, but he told us something just astonishing in the pre-show. Because, the whole country and maybe a lot of the world watched this whole controversy over the Chinese spy balloon that entered American territory and just at 60,000 feet, just kind of floated across the country. Meanwhile, taking pictures of all our shit. George, you got to tell us a little bit about what your state is thinking. Of course, the last place the last state that it covered was South Carolina, and they were going to shoot it down. And of course, the whole world saw these images when it got on the water. But is it true that there were notices being sent out to the residents of South Carolina? Please do not try to shoot the balloon. Your bullets will not go that high.
This is correct. I saw a news flash requesting South Carolina residents do not try to shoot the balloon down with your own firearms because it's not going to make it. It's too high up.
Now, you know what's fucked up about that? First of all, that's fucked up. What's even worse is I'm sure that just had a lot of them go, well, shit, let's just try. I mean, how many just said, screw it and went out and tried? There had to be quite a few.
Yeah, there's some good video of them actually shooting the balloon down off the coast of Myrtle Beach, and this some of the commentary by the people videoing it over there in the south, the lowland of South Carolina is it's quite amusing.
Damn. Wow. And you left New York and North Carolina for that? I'm just kidding. I love down there. Today's show brought to you by LMNT. You hear us talk about it all the time. This is our go-to hydration source. I needed a lot of hydration today after the dinner party I went to last night, where I said, I'm just going to swing by. We'll have one drink, honey. That didn't happen. Anyways, definitely rehydrating today, but this is the go-to. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, no sugar, no gluten, no BS. It is the real deal. Special offer for our listeners. We heard so much feedback on this, which is really cool because folks just come up all the time and tell us how they're truly converted. Free sample pack. So you can get all the flavors, try those out, dial in the ones you like the best. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/themove. Today also brought to you by Juve. This is something that I've incorporated into my daily routine. I spend about 30 minutes a day, believe it or not. When I'm at home, I do have my portable travel version, but the 6-panel that I have here at home is a game changer. You've probably seen some of that on the socials. Infrared light. It is proven to boost recovery, help performance, mental clarity, all of these things, all the way down to the cellular level. And again, that's Joovv, Joovv. They do have several different size options. You can head on over to their website and check those out. And the other thing about it is the friends that have tried it out have just loved it. It's a wild experience. So head on over to Joovv, again, joovv.com/TheMove, and apply my code THEMOVE, that's all one word, at joovv.com/TheMove. So let's get into it. There's a lot of racing took place. Before we say anything, this cyclocross, I'm sort of late to cyclocross. Of course, you grew up in Belgium, so you grew up with this. But if cycling's looking for a thing or a format, obviously these are hard to replicate on the road, but man, this scene at these races with 40,000 people there, you're watching this going, dude. Like, there's not a lot of bike races where I say, I wish I was there. Like, especially today, in every little acceleration between Van Aert and Van der Poel, you could hear the crowd lifting, like the energy there. Did you notice the sky boxes very similar to what you might see at a PGA event? I mean, like you said, I've never in my life thought, oh, I'd like to be there. You turn on TV and it's muddy and it's rainy. It looks miserable. That looked like the best party in cycling. Well, and let me be clear. When I say that it was, my reaction was, I wish I was there. You hit on it, JB. I wish I was there in one of those luxury skyboxes. Let me be clear. Like in the mosh pit with a bunch of beer swilling Belgians and Dutchmen. No, that swanky, suite? Yes.
No. Johan, are they charging the spectators or just the ones in the suites and the VIP?
No. It's a paying event. In December we went to one of those World Cup races, and everybody pays to get in. And then the VIP boxes, those are people who are invited by sponsors. But Lance, I have to say, I went with my son to this race in Belgium, and we had tickets to the VIP boxes, and we didn't go. It's like being in a stadium and soaking up the atmosphere. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is 40,000 people and a bunch of high-level athletes on a square mile. I think that kind of format, that venue, that kind of venue is amazing for cycling. That's what makes cyclocross so popular in Belgium and Holland, is that you have one of those every week. Obviously, in the other races, there's not 40,000 people, but there's 20,000 people. Yeah, it's a lot of people on a square mile, Yeah, and it's like you say, you see the riders, but hearing that the noise of the spectators when Van der Poel and Van Aert or whoever comes by, you can hear who's coming based on the enthusiasm of the crowd. It's magical.
Yeah. Something I'll have to add that I thought was a great addition and good for cycling was the follow drone through the trees.
I agree.
That was amazing. That perspective. It gave you a real sense of the speed.
It made me wonder what that would look like in a field sprint of the Tour de France, a follow drone. I mean, some incredible footage.
Yeah, why not? And it's funny, when I was watching this morning, because the first time I saw that, I said, Jesus Christ, they let a cameraman on the course. Is a cameraman on the bike? And then I was like, no, you idiot. It's a drone. And then there were other shots where you could see the drone following them. That was a sick look.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time to see that in road races. It's everything. They have these drones so much under control now that I mean, those images are just very, very special. It gives you a feel of being like inside the race. In road cycling, you can combine that with on-bike cameras and stuff like that. I mean, I think this is just a matter of time. It's going to happen.
Well, I don't know. We've been talking about that for on-bike cameras. We've been talking about for a long time. And
they do have them. They do have them on. I mean, it's just there's just this eternal battle of who owns the rights. But that's a whole other
podcast. Yeah.
Well, and they have very dry conditions, which is unusual. We watch all season where they're in the mud and sand, and this was fast.
Yeah,
right, and we talk about it a lot in the spring classics. Like it's just been a minute since a classic or world championships has been contested, and terrible can look chilly, but it looked beautiful out.
Yeah. I mean, there's in cyclocross you dependent so much on the weather. I've already read some comments, some criticism about it was not hard enough. Listen, I mean the weather, you don't have it under control. If it rains for 2 days, this is a mud fest, right? I think it was a really, really good course. I've watched almost all of the races, and I think it was hard enough. It was a right combination of speed, toughness, and also, obviously very technical also. And I don't think that there's any category where the best hasn't won.
And the spectators were able to get the riders 3 or 4 times a lap, right? With the bridge, they had to do the bridge 3 different ways. So it's just ideal in terms of a spectator's perspective.
And also, on those strategic points, you also have big screens everywhere. So it's basically you see them 3 or 4 times, and then you follow the rest on a big screen while having a beer. It's it's very special, very, very special. It's a niche sport. We've talked about being very Dutch, Belgian dominated, but it is something else once you're there.
Johan, talk about that a bit. Sorry, Lance. Talk about that a bit, because pretty much know that Wout van Aert and Van der Poel were going to ride away from everybody, but it's still super exciting because we don't know if they're going to try to drop each other, if they're going to leave it for the sprint, how far behind 3rd and 4th place are, how much cat and mouse games they're going to play in the last few laps. So in that sense, it makes it super exciting. And the other viewpoint is there's no other event in cycling where you pretty much know, like a world championship event in cycling, that you're going to say these 2 guys or these 3 guys are going to ride away from everybody.
Yeah, I think especially in that category, these guys are so good compared to everybody else. It's not that they're the best cyclocross riders. They're 2 of the best cyclists in the world. No doubt. Any discipline, mixed. So I think it was clear that was going to be the case. But man, they made it a thriller until the very end, and to combine those 2 things that we just touched on, like that crowd, that energy, my view, and I've always had this view about any sport, not just cycling, the stars, the athletes, the stars make the show, right? This is those 2 guys and the star power that they have and the rivalry they've had for 11 years, like that brings that energy. Like no disrespect to the guy that got 3rd. I think I heard on the show today that he, a month ago, he was working at a butcher shop or something like that. No, that's another guy. But anyway, but my point is, again, no dissing, but like those 2 guys are rock stars, right? And that's what brings those people, those rabid fans. I mean, it was cool to see. But we're going to get to all the action in the men's race that we saw this morning. But before we do, let's touch on some of the other races, some of the things that stood out for you. I'll kick it off because I'm just curious because I didn't see it. Johan, what's up with the mixed relay? Like, how does that go? How does this go down? I think, it's something that it was a test event last year. This is the first time that it was a world championships. Last year in the US, they had the event, but it was not the real world championship.
Well, what is the format?
Well, I mean, it's 1 rider of every category. So there's 6 riders per country that race, and so it's men and women juniors, men and women under 23, and men and women elite.
One lap each.
1 lap each, and the specialty about this is that the countries can decide who goes when.
Interesting.
So that there's a lot of change in dynamics. Like
I don't hate that. I think that sounds cool.
Yeah, listen, I mean, nobody knows about it. The Netherlands won,
Well, I don't know. We're talking about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I put it on the notes because it was one of the events, but it was interesting. I mean, the Netherlands were leading the whole time, but then there were a lot of changes in position with other countries. But it was clear from the start that the Netherlands would dominate. They have the best females in juniors and in under 23 and in the women elite, and then they have some really good riders in the men too. So it was, it was a given that the Netherlands were going to win.
Got it. Okay. Well, what and the other categories? Of course, we had women and men's juniors. We had women and men's under 23, and then of course the women's elite race. What are the highlights there for you?
Well, I think the women elite, first of all, we were all, it's a bit the same situation as with Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel. It was Fem van Empel and Puck Pieterse. Those two are the youngest. Both of them still qualify for under 23, but decided to do the elite.
Interesting.
They've dominated the season. And it was the same thing. They're very, very close to each other, their level. Here, in this case, the Puck Pieterse had a bad start. Plus, he had a crash, and that basically took all the suspense away from that event. But Fem van Empel is a rider. She's 20 years old. She recently changed to Jumbo-Visma. Came from a specific cyclocross team, went to Jumbo-Visma. Wants to have a career on the road also, and the curiosity of this is that both Fem van Empel and Puck Pieterse, their favorite cycling discipline is mountain bike. That's what they like, and both of them are world elite. I mean, the two best in the world in cyclocross. But that was a nice thing. 7 Dutch riders in the top 8. I think that says a lot about the dominance in certain categories. And then I think there was one, I don't know if it was one Belgian or one one Italian and 7 Dutch in the top 8. Rarely seen such a dominance of a country in any sport.
Well, not dissimilar to the race we saw today, the men's elite race. There were 7. Of course, they didn't win the race, but there's 7 Belgians in the top 11.
Yeah. 6 Belgians in the top 8. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, it is very, very Dutch Belgian. I think it has to do with the fact that there's just so many races. It's every weekend. As a young rider, you can ride cyclocross whenever you want. And I think the difference with other countries is that in Belgium and Holland, there are a lot of young riders who actually specialize from a very young age in cyclocross. Whereas in other countries, you have cyclists that, let's say American cyclists, they start and then somewhere in juniors or under 23, they say, okay, I'm going to try a bit of cyclocross. In Belgium and Holland, there are cyclists who start with the objective to just be a cyclocross rider. I think that's the big difference with other countries.
The difference now also is back in our day, the cyclocross riders were decent road riders, but they were not by far the best in the world like they are today. I don't know why that's changed, but, with Van Aert and Van der Poel and Pitcock, these guys are the best riders in the world. These
are generational talents, though. These guys.
But also, let's not forget,
this is not something that's. They're very special. It doesn't matter what the discipline is.
Let's not forget, that Van der Poel and Van Aert and Pitcock, the 3 of them started as being a cyclocross rider, and then because if you remember, Wout van Aert really started to try a little bit on the road when he was in his last year before Jumbo-Visma. He did Strade Bianchi and a few other races and won a few. Van der Poel the same. They were specific cyclocross riders, but they're huge talents. So I don't think those 2 or those 3, we cannot draw any conclusions from that. I think they're so good in anything they do.
And Pitcock did not race because he wanted to focus on his spring campaign, correct?
Well, yes, and also I think he knows very well that he didn't have a choice. He didn't have a chance.
No,
they on Belgian TV they named the drone that was following. They named him Pitcock. He was in the race actually.
Well, then I wasn't far off. I was like, yeah, somebody gave one of the riders. Of course, nobody was even close to those 2. Good day for Canada, eh? You see what I did there? In the junior women's race, first and second twins, which is kind of cool.
Sisters, yeah. I happened to watch that race. It was really, really interesting. The big favorite was a Dutch girl, and she had a a flat tire, I guess. And the twins, they had a really bad start. And you would think, okay, it's a shorter race. I think it's 35 minutes. And bit by bit, they came into the game and they were amazing at the end. I mean, they were just, there was nobody else close to those. And I was surprised that at one point, the girl who got second of the twins, she got really close. And her sister just, instead of, I thought they're going to wait for each other and cross the finish together. No, they raced. Like all of a sudden she looked behind, she saw her sister coming closer, and she just accelerated.
You, sister.
Well, I mean, that was really nice. Super, super nice to see.
Men's under 23 race, also a fun story.
Yeah, that's I think Thibaut Nys, the son of Sven Nys, cyclocross legend. He was the big favorite. He won the race very dominantly, basically took the lead from the very start. The competition was very, very, very strong. Like a few Belgians. The guy who won the under 23 World Championships last year was in the race, the Belgian guy, and then a Dutch guy. But Thibaut Nys won that race. And 25 years after his dad won the same World Championships under 23.
Wow.
And then went on to be one of the best cyclocross riders ever. And also Thibaut Nys, only 20 years old, is already the European champion under 23 road race. And just signed with Trek Segafredo on the road. So he still qualifies for 2 more years under 23, but goes to
you didn't put him on your up-and-comers list.
I forgot.
So he'll be racing this season as a pro on the Trek?
Yes.
Season.
Yeah.
Women's under 23? How do you say it? Sharon van
Androoy. Yeah. Sharon van Androoy. I mean, that's there you see. Wait, let's see. Where is she? Sharon van Androoy. This is not, Dutch and Belgian dominated. Sharon van Androoy won, but other countries were up there. She was the big favorite. She was the huge favorite for the race. She was together with Fem van Empel and Puk Pietersen, the third one that did all the World Tour races, all the elite races. But she chose to do the under 23 championships and won. But she's at the same level as the two ladies who are first and second in the elite.
And she was I looked it up, Tour de France Femme youth category winner this past year.
Yes.
So a name we're probably going to hear a lot more.
Yeah.
On the road.
Yeah, she's also racing for Trek Segafredo.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, one other category. Junior men. La France.
French guy. The favorite. He won basically almost all of the World Cup races, and yeah, I mean, also a French guy, and then a Belgian guy, and a Dutch guy, I guess. So also, not I mean, at least not Belgians or Dutch guys dominating.
Interesting. Before we get to the showdown today, which of course we touched on a bit, and it was a hell of a race. Today's show also brought to you by Athletic Greens. See this little packet? These are the travel packets. As much as I'm on the road, I don't leave home without it. Listen, it's all about taking control of your health. And Athletic Greens, boy, you're just starting to see it more and more. You're seeing it pop up on TV ads. You're seeing people talk about it, obviously on all your socials. It's the real deal. I think they've redone the formulation like 59 times. I think I heard like they're that big of a perfectionist when it comes to this product. Over 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, all for less than $3 a day. Athletic Greens. Let's make this easy for you. Head on over to, before I say that, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D, which I keep taking because I can't get it up. If anybody's listening to this show and has another hack for me, I'm like chronically low in vitamin D, as is like half the population. So I'm not alone, but you get a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/themove. Again, athleticgreens.com/themove. Also today brought to you by HVMN. I took a little ketone IQ shot before the show came on. George clearly didn't. He's not saying much today. JB told us in the pre-show he's got COVID brain, so he's a little he's on the DL as well.
It helps with the clarity. It really does.
I'm telling you, and I was glad to hear you say that because obviously HVMN talks a lot about it. The science and the data supports that, but it's cool to hear these personal stories like that, right? And I was making light of a serious subject. I mean, I think COVID has had these effects on people, long-term lasting effects. But HVMN was the first to come up with Ketone IQ. It's a game changer, right? Whether it's physical performance, recovery, as we just said, mental clarity, and they've made it more affordable, taste better, and work even better. Head on over to hvmn.com. Use the promo code THEMOVE20, gets you 20% off at checkout. Last one of the day, HELIX. We've been talking about this one for years. I love how these, a lot of these, we're just avid users of this stuff. HELIX Sleep has really changed the game. I know George and I, we've had our mattresses for a couple of years now.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, right? And it's the best sleep I've ever had. Here's another little twist to the story, right? They've got unique mattresses. They've got luxury models, mattresses for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. So HELIX Sleep kids mattresses specifically designed for kids 3 to 12 and has been awarded the best mattress winner by Parents Magazine. I mean, who doesn't want their kids to sleep? All the parents are like, whoa, yes. All you got to do is go on over and take their 2-minute sleep quiz, talk about your characteristics. They've got 12,000 5-star reviews, 12,000. Head on over to helix.com/themove. You're getting 20% off. Use the code. Just go to helix.com/themove, 20% off and 2 free pillows. Boom. All right, let's talk about the men's race today. This was, as we've already talked quite a bit about it, but no surprise. The one thing we didn't touch on, and I did not know this until you said it earlier in the show, there was some controversy in and around the race and the course specifically because it was apparently designed by Mathieu van der Poel's dad. Of course, we all raced with Audrey. He's a legend. He's a really, really cool guy. I did not know that he was actually the designer of the course. And of course, his son ended up being the world champion on that course. But I don't think that's a real story. But what's the scoop?
It's not. Listen. Obviously, in the Belgian media, they were talking about it and criticizing it. I personally think that it was a fair course for everybody. The last time Adri has already designed other World Championships courses also. The last one he designed in Holland was in Valkenburg, and Wout van Aert won against Mathieu van der Poel. So I don't think it's a non-story, but people and especially the fans of Wout van Aert were criticizing it. Wout van Aert was extremely gracious and classy. In his comment, he said, this is a great course. It's fair for everybody. Every single detail of cyclocross is in it, and it's absolutely not favoring any of both. So he was extremely gracious, and I think he was right. It was a really nice course.
Johan, why was Wout van Aert on the second row to start?
Mm-hmm. It has to do with the points in the World Cup.
Right.
Got it.
So Wout van Aert, they were both on the second row. Wout van Aert chose to not race the last World Cup race in France last week. Instead, he went training. And Mathieu van der Poel did race that race, and he won. And he got 3 or 4 extra points and made it onto the first row. And Wout van Aert was on the second row.
God, just watching the start. It reminds me of riders that are prologue specialists. When in a prologue, you have an effort that's, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes long, and you pretty much have every pedal stroke accounted for. 1 pedal stroke to get off the ramp, and then so-and-so pedal strokes to get to the first corner, knowing exactly where you can hit. This is completely different, where you have an ideal plan in your head. You got 40 other riders that may get in your way. So it's just funny to see the intensity in these guys' faces when they're about to start, hoping that their plan comes to fruition. But so many variables can happen in a start of a cyclocross race, which for me is very exciting to watch.
George, I'm sure you've done some cross races in your day. I've only done a few. So for those folks who listening who never have, I mean, you cannot believe, and again, I've only done a few, but it is so hard. And to see the faces of everybody else's face, I mean, this really was a tale of two races, not just in performance and time, but just the look on their faces. I mean, Van der Poel and Van Aert, they didn't even look like they were suffering. These races, from the minute they fire the gun, you're sprinting, and you're literally sprinting for an hour. I was watching their faces going, I couldn't pick it. Like, I was like, I don't know who's going to win this race. I mean, if maybe there's a crash, maybe there's some bad luck, a mechanical something. These guys looked easy. Look at the guys that were in from 3rd to 30th. They look like they have been sprinting for an hour.
They had everything under control. It was, they know that they are so tight, that it was basically going to come down to who makes a mistake. None of them made a mistake, and none of them was strong enough to drop the other one. And so basically, if you look at my background, this is the picture of the race. You have the public, you have the two guys there. You see the two guys on Van der Poel and Van Aert, and then the rest. And it was after 4 minutes they were gone, right? Or after 3 minutes they were gone.
Johan, the question is, what kind of tactics are going on amongst the teammates? You can see from the start, perhaps a little quacking going on between some of the Dutch riders and Wout van Aert to establish the 2nd, 3rd, 4th position in that line. The one Dutch guy got a great start. He was up ahead. Yeah, Van der Poel was right on his wheel. Are they helping each other in this situation? Are they trying not to give the wheel, let Wout van Aert in, or keep him away from Van der Poel?
I would think there was definitely a plan with the Belgians, that one of the Belgians in the first row would let the gap open for, it's an hour race, so Van Aert was not worried that he was on the 2nd row. You're still on the wheel of Van der Poel, right? I mean, as long as nobody gets in front of you and there's a crash, it didn't really matter. And as soon as they got into the field, I think he was in 3rd or 4th position. So, and then it's still an hour long, right? But there was definitely a plan with the Belgians to let the gap open, and that Van Aert could get a free pass to the wheel of Van der Poel. I would imagine. I mean, and that's what happened also.
Yeah, something that it looked to me like, it looked like Van der Poel was doing a lot of work early in the race. And do you think he wanted separation from those other Belgian riders? And then from that point on, they could just control the gap. Those two, they could have gotten a minute and a half if they wanted, but he didn't want those other Belgian riders near them.
I don't know, JB. I don't think that either Van der Poel or Van Aert were worried about anybody else in this race. Right. They've been so far above everybody else that it was, and you could clearly see, and there you have a good point, Lance. I mean, they were so much in control that. And they didn't go full gas, because otherwise the gap with the 3rd and the 4th would have been a lot bigger. I mean, they were relatively close. They had it under control, and they each took their turns. And once Van Aert tried an attack, and then Van der Poel tried an attack, but they didn't go full gas, and they just didn't see any opportunity to drop the other one, and they were just gambling on who made a mistake. And Van der Poel in his post-race interview was very clear. He said, everybody thought, because you could see that Van der Poel was a little bit better in jumping,
no doubt,
jumping, and he could get a little advantage. And then the last time he didn't go. He didn't go. And he said he had it all figured out. He said, as soon as I saw that we were so equal, as we have been for 11 years, basically, he was going to gamble on the sprint. And he knew that whatever Van Aert would try to do, he was going to be able to follow. And he knows the sprint so well there that, he was confident. And I think personally, to give one little piece of criticism, it's easy to say, but I think Van Aert made a mistake. That he was, you cannot be caught like that, there was such an acceleration of Van der Poel. Van Aert is one of the best sprinters in the world. You know, I mean, I think that was a mistake of Van Aert to be like too slow. And Van der Poel had this little edge on him that he went probably at one moment that Van Aert was looking in front of him, and that was what made the difference.
Right.
I don't think Ben Aert's looking, you know, tonight at the sprint going, I should have done that. I think he realized he just didn't have the power. When Van der Poel went, he was gone.
I think the best man won.
It's completely different than maybe, you know, Tour of Flanders a few years ago when they were photo finish. Completely different story. Things may have been done differently. And this one, I think he was just didn't have the power.
Hey, Johan,
and also, you know, I mean, if you look at it, of course, I think for Van der Poel, this was a lot more important than for Van Aert. You know, winning the world championships is not going to change their life. It's not going to change their career. Van der Poel had 4 world titles. Van Aert had 3 before this race. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything. Not for them.
He said he was on the record saying that yesterday. Wout van Aert was. He said, "This is, but I don't win. It's not going to. This doesn't affect my resume, so to speak."
Well, and winning in front of his home crowd had, of course, been very important.
Yeah.
Right. But then, if you look at the excitement and the happiness of Van der Poel afterwards, and he said, you know, he was so happy. He qualified this victory as one of the 3 best in his
top
career.
3. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's easy. I think it's easy to say Tour of Flanders would be one of them, and the stage he won the Tour de France for his grandfather Raymond Poulidor, and this one. I mean, that's
Oh, you're putting aside Amstel Gold Race when he chased down a whole breakaway by himself in the last 10 hours. That's got to be up in the top 3.
I'd make the argument that was his biggest win. That was fucking Superman effort.
I say, and I maintain, and I said it to his father when I spoke to him for like a very long time in Belgium when I was at the cyclocross race. I said, the stage Mathieu van der Poel won in the Tour de France on Mur de Bretagne, that's one of the best performances I've ever seen. It was almost impossible to do what he did, and he did it.
Johan, question about you talked about the jumping section where where they have these planks or these boards up. And again, just beam me up because I don't watch a lot of cyclocross. Clearly, is it always just one section? Two planks, or is there? It seems like other races I've seen. Maybe I'm just not watching close enough. But it seems like they're jumping all the time. I mean, you got the jumps, you got the stairs, you got the bridges, but like,
or is it a set distance?
I think there's always. I think they always have a set distance between the two, but seems like
these planks were extremely high. They have to be. The maximum is 40 centimeters. It has to be below 41 centimeters. They were 40.9 centimeters.
Wow.
But I think it's normally only. Sometimes there's 3. Sometimes there's 2. But I mean, in this race, for example, it's one of the few cyclocross races where we saw no running except on the stairs.
Steps, right?
On the stairs, but that's a skill. I mean, and especially if you see that, these planks were slightly uphill, so you get over the first one, then you get over the second one, you lose all the speed, and then the amount of power you need to relaunch. That's really, really hard. Like, and those two guys, they just, master it. They have no problem at all. Not at any time were they in a situation where
they looked like they were out just having a leisurely 2-man team time trial. But how much does tire choice and tire pressure matter?
Yeah, a lot.
I would think they put a lot of thought into that all the way up to the start of the race.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that that's what makes it a little bit like Formula One. The choice of tires. Sometimes you see there's always 2 pits on every course. And it goes as far as even going with one particular set of tires, kind of tires on one part of the course, and another set of tires on another part of the course. Or even some guys have like a specific set of tires for the start, and then at the second pits they change already in the first lap. Now here in this race they didn't have to change bike. Because it was not dirty. And so I think it was important that they had the right tire choice from the very beginning. But I'm almost sure that both Van der Poel and Van Aert were riding the same kind of tires.
one of the things I want to ask, maybe you know this, Johan, and I think back to, do you remember when Tiger Woods was dominating and he would walk away whenever he wanted to? And they would ask.
Cycling here, right?
Well, there's a correlation. Hang tight.
Y'all are wondering why I keep looking up because the Pebble Beach is on. So I'm just, they had a bit of a delay yesterday. So, anyways, yes.
No. So I remember they would talk to other PGA players, and they would always, everyone asks about Tiger Woods. And I remember some, at least one of them distinctly saying, like, this is great for the sport. We are all making more money because more people are tuning in. This is great for everybody. Would you say that's similar to what's happening now with cyclocross? Looking at that crowd and that image behind you, if you're on YouTube.
And it almost sounds like something that happened about 20 years. Never mind.
But are all those cyclocross specialists now getting more opportunity, more sponsorship?
Yeah, and they earn more money. I mean, there are specific teams that are only focused on cyclocross with, a full roster, full staff, trucks, buses. Before it was one here, one there. Some had a private sponsor. That's finished. Now these guys have, real teams with team managers, with team directors, with their trainers. The sport has grown a lot and is super, super professional.
Well, look at the crowds. I mean, that's, you just show a sponsor or a supporter that scene and that energy you get.
And also,
we weren't even there. I mean, imagine being there. I mean, and then you layer in just the spectator side of it, the luxury boxes. Like this is psych, man. If you could bottle this up somehow and carry it around to the other disciplines, it's a thing. Like I was thrilled to watch it.
But now that you bring up, sponsorship, I heard Adrie van der Poel respond, to the criticism, and the planks. Initially, there was not going to be planks, or they were going to be in another place. But then one of the sponsors came in and said, "Okay, I want my name on those planks." And this is a race. They lost money 2 years ago and last year because of COVID. There was no public allowed. And Adrie van der Poel said, "Hey, this is going to make us break even, make up for, the last 2 years, because this is normally a World Cup event, right? The race in Hogerheide." And so the planks were there, and the publicity on it is super, super important. The sponsor was super happy with that.
By the way, what does that translate to? Hogerheide.
Hogerheide. Yeah. Hogerheide. The Heide is how we call that. It's like an open field, a high open field. Hogerheide.
I was hoping for something better than a high open field. They race bikes. Yeah. All right. Anything else before we jump? What else sticks out?
No, I think that's it. I mean, listen. I think we have. We've seen. In my opinion, I think the best guy won.
No doubt.
He also had, he had to overcome some physical problems during this off season. And, this promises a lot for, the Spring Classics, to see those two guys, then, throw in Pidcock and some other guys. I mean, it's promising for Flanders, Roubaix, and everything else.
Hey, yeah, it makes all those second places to Ben Aert and the World Cups leading up to this really irrelevant. I mean, Van der Poel said this was his objective. He accomplished that objective, and now he goes to the classics.
Yeah.
And special shout out to I think the one and only American in the race, Curtis White, finished 27th. That sounds like you're far down, but really not that far down, just over 3 minutes, staying on the same lap. There are a lot of guys getting lapped. Yeah. And so Curtis, great job. Going back to what we said earlier about the start position, a guy in Curtis White who probably doesn't have the points. He's probably starting towards the back. Kids like, and again, I haven't done many of these, but if you start at the back, you are not going to ever see the front. You have zero chance.
Yeah.
And unless I guess they put a Van Aert or Van der Poel on the back row, they would find their way to the front, but it is virtually impossible to ever get up there. So way to stick it out, Curtis.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, well, we'll be back together. Johan Spencer and I will be covering the UAE tour. This crew will be back together on March 1st for a classics preview, and then Strade Bianchi's on the 4th of March. So
excellent.
That's what's on the horizon.
All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. George, don't go out and shoot any balloons this afternoon, okay? These fucking rednecks over there like a
No
kid.
worries.
Imagine some kid like a birthday party. They let some that might be what they what they do for fun down there, South Carolina. Like got the kid birthday party, let the balloons go. And hey, y'all, we couldn't get that big one up there, but let's shoot these motherfuckers down right now. On that note, we better go. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you soon.